I can guarantee you, if you are not having any consolidated notes, then in that case, you might not be replicating this. The examination is not about mastering a lot of things. It's about mastering some things with the proper strategy. That the Indian Constitution is an evolutionary and organic document which talks about that it is incorporating what changes that have been there with respect to the society. That will give you eventually better memory and the memory mapping for the retention. Hello everyone, I am Vishal Salsekar, and today we are going to discuss about a dilemma that every one of you who are beginning with your preparation faces, that how to integrate current affairs in your notes, whether it is your existing notes or the notes that you are going to prepare with respect to this examination. So UPSC has a sheer volume of a syllabus that includes multiple books. There are many resources, there are multiple magazines. Now, how to integrate all these things? When it comes to different subjects, the task becomes very, very difficult. Now, if your static is here, the current is there, then in general, your answer writing is nearly nowhere. And what about the output? That is also not that much visible. So, in order to ensure that whatever you are reading, that is perceived, that is written, and apart from that, if there are certain new developments that are going on with respect to the topic, should be incorporated in your static notes, that makes your notes integrated. And this is the way UPSC also asks the question. So then it comes to me that how we can ensure the purpose fulfillment. Because if you are preparing for the UPSC examination, there is some purpose because of which you are preparing the notes. Ultimately, you are going to replicate that particular topic. So in today's discussion, I am going to take the example of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the right to life and liberty. Now, if you are going to prepare the notes with respect to that topic, tomorrow if there is any question that is going to be asked in the examination, those question-related answers should be clear to you. Along with that, there should be replication of data, there should be replication of examples, and every time when Supreme Court is interpreting something with respect to the constitutional article, then there will be a lot of case laws that will be emerging over a period of time, right? So all these things have to be part of your answers. Now see, a basic framework you will be reading as a part of your static, but what about the development? Whenever editorial is covering something with respect to recent Supreme Court's observation or the verdict that Supreme Court had provided, then you have to integrate that also as a part of your syllabus and as a part of your notes. And that's what UPSC is expecting from your side. So what is the purpose of integrating the notes with the static and the current affairs? Because होता क्या है, if you are not integrating that these particular things like the answer writing, the data retention, example gathering, and also the case laws related clarity, that one is suffering difficulty with. So now if I am saying something that must be certain cases that I might have encountered, then only I am talking to you about these issues that the students are facing. Now what issues I had observed when it covers the thing with respect to integrating the notes with static and current affairs, generally what students tend to do, they try to do the photocopy wala thing. Means you are reading one book and you are replicating that particular content into your notes. Matlab, clear-cut book you are putting in the notes. For example, let's say if you are reading any specific book, maybe the Bayer Act. Now, if you are taking everything from that particular Bayer Act, then it is no notes. That is basically equivalent to not preparing any specific notes. Apart from that, your notes might not be having integration of current affairs. Now, just assume a scenarios that in some cases when your notes are having static, but they are missing with the current affairs thing. On the other hand, another student who is performing averagely, but he or she is going to incorporate a lot of answers, may data, example, case laws, then he or she might be writing comparatively better answer, and eventually that student is going to get good marks also. So what that reflects, that if you are not integrating current affairs in your notes, eventually you will not be able to put those things into your answers. Apart from that, another difficulty that comes to you when you are not making the notes as the holistic one, that when it comes to the answer writing. Now see, we as an individual, whatever we are doing repeatedly, that becomes our habit. And if that particular thing is continued for a longer period of time, then eventually we will be replicating those things in the examination, and eventually we fetch comparatively good marks. So the answer writing also suffers because of these kind of unstructured notes that we are preparing. So having understood about the challenges that you might be facing if you are not having the integrated notes and the purpose for which we are preparing the integrated notes, now let's discuss about the 3-step process to ensure the holistic notes with current affairs. So this is the ultimate objective if you are doing your answer writing, whether you are beginner or whether you have attempted twice or thrice. It does not matter if you are not replicating the needed things in your answers. So the 3-step process involved. In the first step, what you are going to do? You are going to prepare the static notes. Right. Now let's take an example of, let's say you are taking the example of Article 21. This is the A4 sheet, right? Assuming that this is the A4 sheet. Now with respect to the static notes, obviously there were certain evolution of the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution which talks about the right to life and liberty. Right. So in this particular case, there was initial interpretation by the Supreme Court of India that the procedure established by law. So in the case of A.K. Gopalan, which was in 1950, the interpretation by the Supreme Court as the procedure established by law. So this is the interpretation. So if there is a law, does not matter that whether it is created for good intent or bad intent. If there is law, that means that particular procedure are just. But then in 1978, there have been another interpretation in the Maneka Gandhi case. And in that particular case, the Supreme Court had interpreted this, that the right to dignity is also part of this. And eventually, what was the interpretation? That what the procedure is established, you have to check the fairness also. You have to also check the intent. And in that case, this procedure established by law became eventually the due process of law. Now, when you are preparing your static notes, might be this much thing along with the explanation briefly in the form of keyword. These things are present in your specific notes. Now, next thing, that whenever, suppose if the Supreme Court is coming up with the new interpretation, for example, in 2017, there is the dynamic thing that will be added, right? The dynamic aspect have to be integrated. Now, for this dynamic aspect, do not prepare separate copy. Try to integrate that here only. For example, if suppose in 2017 they came up with the interpretation of Article 21 that right to privacy is also under the ambit of right to life. So now this particular interpretation from which particular Supreme Court judgment it came? Through the K.S. Puttaswamy case. So now include this thing in your notes. Now there will be multiple interpretations. So for example, now divide it into multiple boxes. For example, right to privacy. So here you can write 2017 K.S. Puttaswamy case. Then there was right to die with dignity. So there was in 2018 Common Cause versus Union of India case. Right to live with dignity. So right to again 2018 में नवतेज सिंह जौहर केस. Right. Then apart from that, You can add further because there are multiple other interpretation. For example, right to live in pollution-free environment. So there are series of cases in the form of MC Mehta case. Here, with respect to dignity, there was another case with respect to the Shahaira Bano case, which ended the instant triple talaq. Now see, this is not exclusive list. Now there will be multiple things that will be eventually added later on as well. So as and when things will get evolved, there will be certain editorials that will come in the newspaper. Now see, these are your static notes. Now there will be different interpretation. Now the question will be asked in UPSC that the Indian Constitution is an evolutionary and organic document which talks about that it is incorporating what changes that have been there with respect to the society. And those things have been incorporated eventually through different Supreme Court's verdict. So when it has been incorporated through Supreme Court's verdict, when the question will be there, I can guarantee you, if you are not having any consolidated notes, then in that case you might not be replicating this. And there are multiple other interpretation also. So those things once are there in your notes, it will be easy to revise and then it will be easy to replicate. So when you are going to ensure the static notes and integrating that with the dynamic aspect, now the third thing that you have to ensure, because we were talking about the 3-step method, right? So the third step in this particular 3-step process was to ensure output. Because see, it's not like you are doing PhD with respect to these topics. You are not doing law, but you are trying to interpret these particular things from the examination perspective. So whatever is needed, up to what extent you can write in the examination, utna hi aapko likhna hai. So if after this you are thinking the notes are bulky, then you can rewrite these particular things or alter in the form of keywords. Now, once you are doing it in form of keywords, that this particular thing and along with the case law, that will give you eventually better memory and the memory mapping for the retention. Once you are doing this, believe me, you are going to perform well in the examination. Because जैसा हम सोचते हैं, जैसा हम repeatedly करते हैं, those things eventually come in our mind when we are in the stress scenario. So in the examination, it is going to be the stress scenario, and at that point of time, whatever you have done in a structured manner, the mind will try to retain that structure. And once that structure will be there, then if you have prepared it in a good structure, then it will be replicated in the examination. Now, whether it is in the digital format, whether it is in the hard copy format, does not matter. The way you have prepared it is important. If it is structured, if it is exam ready, if it is having the dynamic aspect, then the task is done. Then you will be seeing that the output will be available to you. And this particular output will be the success in this examination. So ultimately we have to strive for this, not for just the notes gathering or making the beautiful notes, but the exam oriented notes which are having the keywords, which are having our own handwriting. That's why I've never recommend that you buy another person's note. Just try to make your own the way you are finding it easy for you. If you are making this kind of integrated notes, then you will surely see that that notes will be ingrained in your mind. Once they are there, applicability will be clear and you are going to get clear very easily with respect to this examination. The examination is not about mastering a lot of things. It's about mastering some things with the proper strategy. So I hope that integrating the current affairs in your static notes and making the notes holistically incorporating the dynamic aspects is clear to you. And this approach, believe me, if you will apply this in your day-to-day life, eventually it is going to make the examination very simple for you. Okay? Though it appears easy, it's not that easy. So try to integrate, try to rewrite, try to see that how the things are good for you, and eventually you will see success in the examination. I hope that things are clear to you with respect to integrating the notes with current affairs. Thank you, everyone.